Hey Deckers, if you haven't dived into Trine 5 yet, then I urge you to give it a try. A huge thanks to THQ Nordic for giving us a key so we could test this one out on the Steam Deck, and this is one of those perfect for the Steam Deck games. If you like puzzle platformers and you also want a bit of co-op with friends, you can play up to 3 or 4 player co-op depending on whether you do the classic or the new co-op modes. And actually, out of the box, the settings for this one are pretty good, but you don't want to fiddle around with them too much, which I'll come on to in a little while. Overall, this does play at a pretty much perfect 60 frames per second, bar some areas where it does dip down, which I'll show in a little while. However, there is a bit of a weird bug with this one, which I just can't get my head around, but otherwise it does perform perfectly well and looks absolutely fantastic on the Steam Deck. In some of the earlier stages, that was a slightly later stage that you were seeing there, with some of the heavy foliage and graphics, it does dip down into the 30 and 40 range, and it is a fairly big drain on the battery, normally sitting around the 28 watts range, so you are going to want to have a power source close. Dropping this down to 30 does save you a bit, which I'll show in a little while, but this is such a beautiful game that you don't want to drop it down too much. And one of the weird issues I've had is after fiddling around with the graphics a bit, either changing the frame cap or messing around with VSync or plugging this into an external monitor, it suddenly gets capped at 30 frames per second, and there doesn't seem to be any way of fixing this apart from reinstalling the game. So if this does get capped at 30, it is going to be a reinstall. Fortunately, it's not a huge game, so it's not a massive problem, but it can be a bit annoying. So if you do find that happening, quick reinstall will do it. Clearing the Proton files or validating files does not seem to fix it annoyingly, but it is well worth doing. As you can see though, if you do cap it at 30 with those original settings, then you do drop down to around 21 watts, which will extend your playtime considerably, pushing at least 2 to 2.5 hours on that 30 cap. However, it does feel noticeable, and I do feel that this at 60 frames per second is just much better. So let us know in the comments below if you're going to dive into this one. Highly recommended, and we'll see you in the next one.
Due to its unusually large size, this magical fellow is able to devour carrots as well. However, its smaller relatives only feast on tasty insects.